Hi, I'm Winter, and you know that saying, a rose by any other name is still a rose? Well, it's bullshit. What's this? You're thinking, that's a rose, but no, it's not. That's Craig.
Video game releases can be pretty complicated sometimes, especially when the game is releasing on multiple platforms. Obviously, there will be differences between, say, a Wii and DS version of a game, that's obvious, but another situation where this can happen is at the beginning or end of a console's life. When a new console is officially released, there are bound to be games that were too far along in development to easily port over to the new hardware, or games that developers want on both the old and new hardware to increase sales. In this case, sometimes developers end up needing to make two entirely different games just using the same title thanks to the disparity of the hardware between the two consoles. You could call these demakes, but if you ask me, a demake generally comes after the original version. No, these aren't demakes. They're entirely different games. One of the types of games I've noticed this happens the most frequently with are licensed games. Games like LEGO Star Wars. LEGO Star Wars released on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in 2005 and introduced a gameplay style that's been used in LEGO games ever since. But the game was released on Game Boy Advance too. This version sucks. It uses a top-down perspective, but it also tries to be 3D, which really wasn't necessary. Everything was done really lazily here too. I understand not making entirely new sprites for every in-game episode since, you know, it's a Game Boy Advance game and most players won't notice because of the perspective anyways, but why is Obi-Wan using his Episode 1 design in Episode 3's cutscenes? Why is Anakin using his Episode 2 design? Star Wars is actually a property that had a lot of games like these before Disney bought out Lucasfilm. The most notable examples to me are the Force Unleashed games. Not only were the Wii, PS2, PSP, and DS versions all completely different from the PS3 and 360 versions, but they were made by entirely different developers as well. LucasArts made the next-gen versions of both games, but the other versions were made by Chrome Studios and Red Fly Studios respectively. When I say these versions are different, I mean they are entirely different. Funnily enough, the Wii versions of both games have more content than the next-gen versions, and are both significantly more competent games in my opinion. They feel a lot less broken and weirdly more polished despite looking worse. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie game's PC version is way different from on consoles. The console versions used the same gameplay as Battle for Bikini Bottom, while the PC version was a point-and-click adventure for some reason.
And I want the PC version of my biography to be an MMO.
Speaking of Battle for Bikini Bottom, that game's Game Boy Advance version was completely different from the console versions. It was a 2D platformer, which makes infinitely more sense than a point-and-click adventure. The thing is, though, this always makes sense with licensed games. Licensed games don't usually have to worry about quality because, come on, it has a yellow square on it. It can't be bad. But the weirdest situation is when big-name developers do the same thing. For example, the Donkey Kong Land series on the Game Boy. These are supposed to be Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy. I mean, this makes sense. Donkey Kong Country was a big deal and the Game Boy was a really popular system, but who would take this over this?
Yes, I'll take the less sex-inducing version, please.
Final Fantasy XV Pocket Edition kind of counts too. See, Square wanted to maximize profits on Final Fantasy XV, but they couldn't fit that game on a mobile phone, so they basically made an incredibly condensed version of the game for mobile devices. And the Nintendo Switch, like 4 years later, yikes. But there's one series that's been doing this since the beginning, since the very first game in the series. A series that many wake up in a cold sweat thinking about every night. A series starring one of gaming's most iconic mascots, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, for whatever reason, Sega has always felt the need to do this with Sonic. Sonic 1 and 2 both had superior versions on the Master System. I find this weird considering the Master System did so poorly in America. Sure, it did great in Europe and Japan, but I'm an American, damn it! Those places don't exist! The reason I say the Master System versions are superior is because they don't feel like Sonic 1. I mean, Sonic 2 might be better on the Genesis, but at the very least, Sonic 1 was so much better on the Master System. Sonic took a break from this trend for a while after that until Sonic Unleashed. The Wii version was completely different from the next-gen versions, and many people apparently consider the Wii version to be the superior game thanks to the Werehog stages being shorter. Sonic Colors is entirely different on the DS than on the Wii. The Wii version is a standard boost formula Sonic game, while the DS is basically a third entry in the Sonic Rush series of games. They did the same thing with Sonic Generations on the 3DS. This game was meant to primarily use levels from handheld Sonic games, but the only one they ended up using was the Aquatic Palace from Sonic Rush. Otherwise, the main differences are things like Radical Highway being used instead of City Escape or Mushroom Hill being used instead of Sky Sanctuary. Classic Sonic also has access to the homing attack in this version, so I think maybe they were trying to imply that Classic Sonic was the Sonic in the adventure games, which is weird. Sonic Lost World's 3DS version is also different from the Wii U version, but it's still mediocre, so who cares? Sonic Forces actually got the same version across all the main 4 systems, though. The main difference is that you can get a Persona 5 costume in the PS4 version if you're willing to waste a couple dollars on Sonic Forces. But nope, Sega just couldn't break the trend. Sonic Forces on mobile is a shameless reskin of another mobile Sonic game, Sonic Dash. We just can't have nice things, and it's Sega's fault! Overall, I think these games are a good thing. It gives fans without the newest hardware a chance to experience things they'd otherwise be left behind for. I remember when I was a stupid kid without a 3DS, I hoped Game Freak would make a DS version of Pokemon X and Y, just so I could experience them along with everyone else. Luckily for me, I got a 3DS before the games launched and had my first launch day experience as a result, but that thought has stuck with me ever since. I even grew up with some of these, the DS version of LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga or the Wii version of Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Games like those allowed me to experience some things for the first time that I wouldn't trade for the world.
This is still Craig, though. F*** you.